Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin. Good morning, Ayon. Good morning, Rafai. How's everybody?
Good morning, yeah.
All righty, good morning to you viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Well, we begin today's World Brief with a social media showdown. That is as Nigeria's Foreign Minister, Yusuf Tuggar, fired off a post on X calling for his full interview with broadcaster Piers Morgan to be released unedited. Now, in his first post, Tuggar said that my explanations, supported by verifiable data, may not have conformed to certain preconceived views. However, for the sake of integrity and transparency, it is essential that the full interview be aired exactly as recorded without edits or selective omissions. Now, in response to that, Piers Morgan did respond by telling Tuggar that he seemed to be panicking. Foreign Minister, that's what he said on X, that we will air your comments in full. The show is called Uncensored for a reason, and whether people believe what you said remains to be seen. Now, in response to that, Tuggar said that he was, as you can see, cool as a cucumber, Mr. Morgan, and he says if he wasn't more equitable, he would say that you were flattering yourself, but I won't. Just want to make sure you don't edit out the parts where you kept referring to the Chibok boys. Well researched. Well, clearly it's Chibok girls and not boys. So we are still waiting for this interview to be released. Morgan did confirm that the broadcast is coming. The air date remains unconfirmed as yet. But the spat does center on allegations of Christian persecution in Nigeria, which Tuggar and the Nigerian government have rejected. They've called those allegations dangerous and a single linear narrative. Well, let's stay on the African continent, though, and take a look at Nigeria and Mali. Now, both countries have been named by two United Nations food agencies as being among 16 countries flagged as hunger hotspots. Now, Haiti, Mali, Palestine, South Sudan, and Yemen were listed among the worst, while classified as very high concern were Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Myanmar, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, and Burkina Faso, as well as Chad and Kenya. Now, the situation of the Rohingya refugees, for example, in Bangladesh was also making the list. Just to give context on the company Nigeria finds itself with these lists. Now, the joint report from the Food and Agriculture Organizations and the World Food Programme said that conflict and violence were driving acute food insecurity in the majority of countries which were identified at risk. Let's move on now. In a major media scandal, the BBC has issued an apology to US President Donald Trump after it became clear a Panorama episode spliced together parts of Donald Trump's January 6, 2021 speech, creating the false impression that he called for violence. While the BBC does admit that it made an error of judgment, it has refused to pay Trump, demanded $1 billion in damages. That's what Trump says he wants the BBC to pay him. And he reiterated that, speaking on Fox News, where he called the edit a butchering of his words. He said that the BBC defrauded the public and that he feels an obligation to sue. Let's take a listen to what Trump had to say.
Going ahead and suing the BBC?
Well, I guess I have to. Why not? Because they defrauded the public, and they've admitted it, and their top echelon.
Director General and the CEO
This
both
is
resigned.
within one of our great allies. They actually changed my January 6th speech, which was a beautiful speech, which was a very calming speech, and they made it sound radical. And they actually changed it. What they did was rather incredible. They're showing me the results later on, the results of what they did, how they butchered it up. But it was very dishonest, and the head man quit, and a lot of
Calming speech sound radical. Well, we'll come to our wonderful colleagues for their thoughts and analysis in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at our newspaper headlines from across the world. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And This Day does lead with this escalating legal battle involving Amcon, the asset management company of Nigeria. The paper goes on to report that Amcon chairman Bala Bello, as well as its MD, Benga Alade, and other senior officials have been issued Form 48 contempt notices for allegedly disobeying disobeying a federal high court order that barred them from appointing a receiver over GHL, that's General Hydrocarbons Limited. Now, Justice Louis Alagoa ruled that AMCON misled the court by hiding an earlier injunction and misrepresenting payments to First Bank. Now, the judge has now ordered substitute service through email, WhatsApp, and national newspapers. Well, also on the front page of this day, there is also the reporting of this escalating clash between the FCC Minister Nyesom Wike and Officer Yerima over this disputed property in Abuja. Now, defense authorities insist that the officer did act lawfully and professionally, saying that Wike ignored advice from service chiefs. Now, the former CDS, as Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, warned that disrespecting a uniformed officer amounts to disrespecting the Nigerian state. Now, legal experts say both sides acted improperly, but Wike maintains the officer's actions were illegal. Now, this controversy has triggered sharp criticism nationwide and even a petition sent to the United States, United Kingdom, and the EU, alleging threats to Nigeria's democratic stability. Well, let's take a look at the New Telegraph this morning. The Telegraph also weighs in on this issue between the Minister of the FCT and the naval officer. And again, you've got Lucky Irabo, the former CDS, saying that insulting a military uniform is an insult to the nation and, of course, by extension, an insult to the president at large. Now, Wike, again, insists that he acted within the law, and he says that this Abuja land use regulations must be enforced with fear, or without fear, rather, or favour. Let's take a look at a double whammy. We've got the Punch and the Daily Trust today, both of them taking a look at what we're seeing in the PDP. We did hear from Mary Chinda at the top of the show. She's already in Ibadan for this weekend's national convention, despite the legal battles befuddling the party, as well as internal divisions. Now, you've got the Damagum-led leadership, which insists that the convention remains on schedule, but a rival bloc, backed by Nyesom Wike and Bukola Saraki, says it's illegal and wants a caretaker committee. Now, this split between the party, including divisions within Rivers' delegation, continues to cast doubt over this November 15 and 16 exercise. We're getting ever closer to it. Well, to the Daily Independent this morning, and the Daily Independent does again look at the economy. So you've got Nigeria disinflation trend showing, with this headline talking about inflation easing to 16.29%, but, tight policies are to remain. However, if we look at month-on-month figures, prices are still rising due to higher transport costs, PMS and LPG price hikes, as well as that happening after the Pengasson strike. Analysts are warning that inflation may pick up again with the festive demand period coming and a new 15% fuel import levy. The CBN is also expected to maintain a tight monetary policy at the next MPC meeting. Well, let's take a look at the Vanguard this morning, and we've got jubilation on the front page. That is, of course, as Nigeria's Super Eagles are through to the CAF playoff final after they defeated Gabon 4-1 in Rabat. Akko Adams scored first. Gabon equalized late through Mario Lemina, but extra time goals from Chidera Ejike and Victor Osimhen, our guy, sealed Nigeria's win. Now, Nigeria now awaits the winner of this next clash between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Cameroon for a place in the World Cup Intercontinental Play. Oh, my apologies. Congo won. So it's Nigeria and Congo that will now play off in the final for a place at the World Cup. We already know who we're backing. And let's move over to our UK papers today. Let's take a look at The Guardian. Now, The Guardian, of course, has this story about the BBC apologizing to Trump over this panorama issue, but is rejecting this $1 billion claim that they're not going to pay. But one thing that drew our attention here is the picture headline. And France is marking the 10th anniversary of its 2015 Paris terror attacks, in which 130 people were killed across the Bataclan Theatre, cafes, restaurants, and the Stade de France. Now, ceremonies across Paris have reflected both the enduring pain and the resilience of the French people in such a trying time. That was your world brief. This here was your newspaper review. Can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Okay, see, and I'll repeat this as many times I can to drum it into the ears of everybody. I will scream it on the mountaintop. There is Christian genocide in Nigeria. No matter how government officials try to go and skew narrative on Piers Morgan, and Tuggar was talking about, Piers Morgan was talking Chibok boys. Yeah, that could have been a slip, or Piers didn't do his research. That's between him and Piers. There is Christian genocide. Femi, I was reading an APPG report overnight, around 1 a.m. this morning, where Jim Shannon, as at 3-4 years ago, sent out a report in the British Parliament about Christian genocide. In fact, as at then, they said about 80% of the killings of Christians in the world was happening in Nigeria. 2020 report. I can share that report with you. Maybe you can bring it. It was published a couple of years ago. Whatever the narrative they want to spin, but please, they should remember, people are being killed. And for every blood that is shed that we do not account for, God will ask us one way or the other. I know the politics. Oh, we don't want a case where America will stop aid because, we're already in dire straits. Look at us already on the hunger list for the world. All of those things are because aid stopped. USAID, those monies and all of that, because these are the things they used to give nutritional supplements to kids in poor areas. In fact, Rosus was showing a report this morning about how somebody wrote that the way to attack Christian kids is removing aid from America. And I think that report is right. And that's why we beg the likes of, Trump to please stop this, attempt to be able to remove aid and USAID. And that's why when some people were carrying propaganda, Russian talking points anyway, that USAID was being used to form Boko Haram, that period, I said, please, let's stop lying. We don't have facts. They said, an American lawmaker, I said, let's stop lying. Let's stop carrying propaganda because this money actually helps. Because I've also prevailed on many of these international donor agencies. And when they pick my brain and say, Rufai, but we're pumping in a lot of aid, and we see how your politicians are living the lavish life. And I beg them and I say, please, do not look at the lifestyle of our politicians. Look at the very poor people that are amongst us that are suffering as regards this. So let us do what is right so that society will be a whole lot better. But let's stop deceiving ourselves. Are Muslims being killed? Yes. Is there Christian genocide? Yes. If you want to plot the narrative, two truths can exist. Because God will ask us if we speak the truth or not. Let's be realistic. Let's not say because we want to talk government talking points. God will ask us and God will judge us.
All right. A quick comment on, I think, just to say that I don't think it was a good move for Minister Yusuf Tuggar to have gone on Piers Morgan's platform, especially if you know the style of Piers Morgan and then also where he stands. He's British conservative. He's very brute. If we cannot handle the heat, don't go into the kitchen. He's a troll. He's a very formal. He's a troll. You should see what he's doing to Meghan and Prince Harry, and he doesn't stop. It's not like the Nigerian press or other press. Look at it with due respect to the Nigerian press, but he doesn't stop. And then he has a huge following on social media. People who are just as can be very right-wing as he is. So I don't know what informed his choice of going on his platform, and then now engaging in a war of words with him. I don't think he would win that fight. So just find a way to color it, because Piers is not someone that you want to be engaging in that kind of verbal fight.
They should air the issue. Let's actually see who actually had the better outing.
Let's air it. But I think in our efforts in diplomatic conversations and dialogue, you want to be careful of the platform that you appear on. I recall that Rufai, you had given them some options as to where to go to and discuss and present your facts. I don't know. But let's see what happens.
I don't find anything wrong with going on Piers Morgan show. It's a brouhaha afterwards.
I think if you want to go on a platform like that, you have to go ready with your facts. But let's see the interview. But what has already happened in terms of their war of words already doesn't look very good, and I don't think it's going to be that on social media. That's what I'm saying. I don't think if you're not able to handle it.
He wanted it to be aired
if he's equal to the task, great. But Piers Morgan, I'm calling it right now that I don't see this ending well, and I don't know why he chose that. But very quickly, in terms of the hunger reports, this administration is, when it started, was very big on ending or reducing poverty. In fact, the Tinubu administration had gotten loan from the World Bank in order to fight this, through the humanitarian and poverty reduction ministry. So it's quite unfortunate to now see us designated as a country of concern at the risk of famine because of the hunger levels in the country. And I think it's just an opportunity for this government to look into some of the challenges of hunger. And we've talked about safety nets. We talked about the economic reforms and its effect on the people. So let us look at we talk about providing seeds, interventions, safety nets, direct impact of food for children, young people, women, mothers, especially in rural areas. It also has an impact on insecurity, because we say that where poverty exists, it's an incentive for crime. It's not a justification, but it makes crime more attractive. And so this is something that I hope that this administration will take, not just wish it away or speak it away, but actually address the issue. Okay,
let's talk journalism first, because two of the subjects relate to journalism. The first is the Piers Morgan uncensored interview, which Minister Yusuf Tuggar has been very concerned about. And he is saying that, look, he wants whatever he said on that program to be broadcast uncensored. After all, the name of Piers Morgan's program is Piers Morgan Uncensored. And his concern is about the fact that there is the danger of the single story out there, a mindset within the Western media, and even here, perhaps in some sections, that there is a Christian genocide in Nigeria. And he said he provides factual, balanced, verifiable data that he wants out there for people to get to hear. And Piers Morgan was also right to say, well, after all, this program is called Uncensored. However, we have no control over what people who listen to you will believe. I think we should wait to see what is published eventually before we jump to any conclusions. But as for Minister Tuggar choosing to go on Piers Morgan as a broadcaster is a very big brand.
Platform, yes.
His platform is a very popular brand. We have an audience of Nigerians and of the international community in the UK that would like to hear the Nigerian story. So in terms of choosing the audience, there is nothing wrong in what they have done. What Minister Tuggar will probably do will be to choose a multiplicity of audiences. After all, he was in Germany also, where he spoke, and now he has gone to the UK. There will be other persons managing the media for the presidency that will put out that story. Now, we have two strands of stories out there. Those who say there is Christian genocide, and those who say both Christians and Muslims are being persecuted in Nigeria in terms of, security, violence, and all of that. But the residual point we keep saying is that the Nigerian government needs to do a lot more, needs to seek the cooperation with other stakeholders that he talks about to make sure that this environment is safe. Every other thing beyond that is just rhetoric. Now, that's that about that. The other leg of the Tuggar Piers Morgan thing is that it's about professionalism. Now, personally, I don't like people telling me as a journalist how to treat your copy. As editorial page editor, chairman, editorial board, you don't come and tell me how to treat your copy. I take the decision how I want to treat your copy. However, we are guided by ethics. We have to be fair, we have to be balanced, we have to be accurate. But as government spokesperson, I always advise people, it's better for you to go on a live program like this Arise News. You are talking to people, everybody is hearing you. When you do a recorded interview, you may not have control over it because there will be a lot of editing in the background, and the company has an editorial ideology. Many people do not know this. So the media house, we choose its own emphasis. We choose what we sell because the media is also business. So I always advise people, as much as possible, avoid recorded interviews. Just speak direct to the people. And that's why we encourage people to come here. Now, the next thing, which is also about media, is Donald Trump saying that he was misrepresented. Now, BBC, they first aired Newsnight, the January 6, 2021 statement by President Trump. Now, a week to the November 2024 election, they went on another program called Panorama. And then what they presented there was different. They gave the impression, this is the substance of the matter, that President Trump was the one who incited people. So what they did was they spliced parts of the interview. They took one part, they attached it to the other to create an impression. And that's why Trump says he's been misrepresented, he's been defamed. Now, that again is a statement for journalists, for editors, about responsibility of the media. Now the Director General of the BBC has had to resign. The BBC Director of News, Deborah, has had to resign, even if she says she believes that, the BBC is not institutionally biased. And then, of course, the BBC chairman had to write a personal letter to Trump to apologize.
Indeed.
This is all within the province of responsible media, occupational hazard. These things happen, but journalists have to do their work. But BBC is saying Trump was not defamed. There may have been editorial issues, editing problems, but there was no intention to defame him. Trump's lawyers are asking for $1 billion.
We'll see.
As for hunger, major problem in the world. But it's linked to violence, it's linked to insecurity. If you look at all the countries on the list by World Food Program and
Palestine,
and
Sudan,
FAO, Syria, Afghanistan, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, Yemen, Bangladesh. These are countries that have issues in terms of violence and insecurity. But the one that concerns us is that Nigeria has been listed as a country of very high concern. They have just asked for 1.5 billion naira, which is about $1 billion. That money should be used to fund agriculture, to address insecurity, to make sure that farmers can go to farm, to make sure that food can be put on the table of every Nigerian.
Absolutely.
And the international community should provide funding for humanitarian aid. World Food Program is saying there's a shortfall in terms of funding. That's a responsibility for the international community and the various funding agencies.